I'm doing a shout out here for Dr. Andrew Rinn. Are you in the crowd there somewhere? Dr. Andrew Rinn. Dr. Andrew Rinn, are you there? Do you want to come over to us? No, I don't think they're messing. I don't think it's in. Okay. Well, with that, yeah. The next person up here, you know, the infamous Diarmaid Ó Cadhla. Thank you.
I nearly went down at the first hurdle. Anyway, Horda, before I begin, just a shout out to the good people in Trieste in northern Italy, dockyard workers, locked out. We all know in Italy, government has made vaccine passports mandatory for all employment. So workers there are fighting to defend their own rights to employment, to defend human rights. So greetings to the workers of Italy to stand up for their rights. They have our best wishes. As I begin, let's send our greetings to Rebel Cork. They are out marching today and conducting a rally right now. Come on, the rebels! Greetings also to our friends in Galway who are holding a rally for civil rights and for truth today. And to our friends in Waterford, standing the right to defend basic human rights and fundamental rights. So this is proper. And sorry, last but not necessarily least, because the quality matters, I believe in Portlaoise today, people are out on the streets, again, defending their rights. Friends, the corrupt clique that calls itself government has once again proven itself to be liars. They have done a U-turn, but spinning and telling a lie earlier this week is nothing new for them. It's in their nature. They have no love for the Irish people. They have no love for Ireland. None. Their love is only for their masters, the masters they serve, and for the things that they receive in return. They look down on us. I want to explain, if I can, 4 kind of points today. The first one is, where are we now? What has happened? Where has it left us? And where do we need to go? And how do we get there? Those are the areas I'm going to try to address, if you can bear with me. Goramagiv. My message is intended to be optimistic, despite the conditions of gloom that one may be subjected to. We can have a bright future if we choose to have it. But a bright future will not be handed to us. We must grasp it for ourselves. So where are we? I think the argument is over. The debate that never happened in a formal sense is over. The result is that the lockdown and the pandemic have been a complete scam. Any debate were it to happen would prove this. The technical arguments are over. It's black and white. Government is wrong. NPHET is gone. We should condemn them. Shame on them.
on them.
The discussion has been suppressed. Those professionals who have spoken out have been called names and have been persecuted. Those who have defended truth and defended fundamental rights have been persecuted. Persecuted by whom? By a captured media who have taken the shilling for selling off what used to be journalism. By a media which is monopoly controlled and serves only its master, where truth has no say in what happens. Money does. We are persecuted by medical professionals and by scientists whose silence has been bought shamefully and has been purchased. As a people, we are persecuted by our public representatives who have turned their back on their solemn duty and on our Bunracht, our constitution. Sadly, I have to say, the powers that be have got their way. They have hoodwinked the majority through a combination of misinformation, fear and intimidation. Our health and our economy and our economic well-being are compromised, the full extent of which we do not know and will not know for many years to come. Having plundered our country 10 years ago, the banks have come back and they want more. They are demanding increasing profits, and their desire, it will never ever be satisfied. Banks and their vulture funds are wreaking havoc in the lives of families up and down the length and breadth of Ireland. However, we Irish people are resilient. We have endured many, many struggles. We have learned to operate in such conditions, and we are far, far from defeated. Unfortunately, as a people, we are disorganised and left without leadership to face the many problems in our society. The giant may slumber, but he will awake. I assure you fully of that.
Let's get organised.
Time brings out the true nature of everything. The issue for us is to be prepared. So what has happened? Acting in our name, our state has borrowed upwards to 50 billion euros. 50 billion euros. They tell us, if we can believe them, that nearly 90% of those above 12 years have taken this vaccine. There are a growing number of adverse reactions. I know I interviewed a worker in the A&E department at University Hospital in Cork, and every single day in their one hospital, more than 100 people present with vaccine injury. The scale of illness, considering all the medical treatments needed in our country, has to be one of the greater crimes of our time. But somebody is doing very well from it. Where has the 50 billion gone? What happened to this money? Despite advertising, the so-called vaccines are not free. We are paying through the nose, top dollar for them. Big Pharma has raked in billions of euro at our direct expense. And they're establishing an annual perpetual cash cow every year with the introduction of COVID vaccine boosters, along with their flu vaccines and so on. This is big pharma, giant corporations, hand in glove with the banks, exploiting the people. Internationally, the banks and big pharma have earned trillions. A trillion is a million. They've earned multiple trillions of dollars from this recent crisis. This is the motivation. This is what is behind the worldwide drive against us. It is money, money. Behind all of this, facilitating it, designing its rollout, deciding the steps and the moves to ensure its success, are the international banking cartels and corporatism and all of their agencies. Benito Mussolini's dream of the corporate state has come into full bloom. The introduction of vaccine passports, initially required for foreign travel only, has been extended to hospitality and is being extended to workplaces. And this, I predict, is exactly where it will go. Just like our friends in Italy and all elsewhere, this is where we are going. It is an instrument of ultimate social control. An example on this money level. You've all heard of quantitative easing, where central banks effectively print money when they want it, hoping to give a kickstart to economic growth and so on. The ECB is doing it, the Bank of England is doing it, the US Federal Reserve does it. Since the 2008 financial collapse, $25 trillion have been added to the money supply in the world. 9 trillion of that has happened in the last 18 months during the COVID crisis. Here we are dealing with financial oligarchs who are in crisis because their economy, already having failed a number of times over recent decades, is in free fall. So the current onslaught against our rights is to try and breathe new life through extending exploitation against the people through these vaccines, through levies, through increased taxes, through the rise of inflation, and through passing the likes of this 50 billion onto our backs as sovereign debt, which our children now are shackled with, on top of the 70 billion they shackled us with 10 years ago. We say no. 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 Where has this financial and scam left us? One lesson we can see: it appears that government have the ability to conjure up literally billions of euro at the drop of a hat. Money that was never included in any budget, money that was taken arbitrarily. In fact, recently it became into the news again, where Ireland's contribution to the European Fund for COVID relief, 19 billion euros. We're getting 2 billion back. So Ireland, with the highest per capita debt, we are subsidising the big states of the European Union off our back. This is what has left us with. But where government can conjure up billions never budgeted for, why is it that they have left 100,000 families in Ireland on housing lists? Why is it that homeless are still on our streets with no services for rehabilitation, no services to get them to rebuild their lives? Why is it that all the other ailments that are killing people, cancer is killing several hundred people every week in Ireland? Where is the treatment? Where is the urgency? I know people with cancer diagnosis who are on the long finger months and months and months simply waiting for scans. They will die, and they are dying on waiting lists. The rollback of civil and human rights has been accompanied with this deeper exploitation I'm talking about. It will come in the future years through the cutback in public services, through the sale of more state assets, through inflation and through tax levies, all to pay these banks, which was used to pay Big Pharma, which was used to subsidise big industry in Ireland, to subsidise all those well-to-do restaurants that are now imposing discrimination against us. We had one very arrogant publican in Cork City recently who boasted, as he drank back his wine, that his wage bill was subsidised with €20,000 a month. So he was in no rush to come out of lockdown, he said. This level of subsidy was used to buy their silence. Equally, the PUP payments given to workers who are redundant during this lockdown has been used to buy their silence and encourage people to put their heads down. I believe the Irish people know full well that our government is a government of criminals. NPHET is headed by a man whose reputation precedes us to the swine flu vaccine, which resulted in hundreds of claims in court against our state because of the injuries caused by that vaccine. The same man, Mr. Holohan, Tony Holohan, the very same man presided over and tried to cover up the cervical cancer scandal, which cost the lives of women in this country, hundreds more who may end up losing their lives still. This is the man they pick to head up NPHET and to preside over the National Health Committee now over this dangerous new technology, still under test, so-called vaccine. Tony Holohan should be in jail. Today, our banner proclaimed truth and civil rights, because truth is a casualty of this recent crisis. Our civil rights is a casualty. A minister, on signing an order without consultation, even with the Oireachtas, can sign an order to deprive us of our fundamental, inalienable rights that were proclaimed here by Pádraig Mac Piaraish at this very position, side by side with James Connolly just over 100 years ago. We have to defend our civil and human rights. One must consider the great disaster which happened to our world in World War II, and at its conclusion, the United Nations and our state signed up to what is the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. Today, those rights aren't worth the paper they're written on because they are being dismissed. Either we have rights or we do not have rights. Where rights are subject to a whim, to the order of a minister, then they are not rights. They are something they're giving us as maybe rewards for being obedient. Rights are absolute things, and human rights are human rights. 3 or 4 years ago, they gave out about Pinochet attacking human rights, or various regimes in Eastern Europe or in Africa who were short on human rights, and they were condemned, rightly so. But when human rights and the Universal Declaration is dismissed in Ireland, the whole media proclaims that we're mad because we question that. Well, we must keep questioning it, because rights are rights and they must not be taken lightly, and when they are, we are finished. I, like many others, have been dragged through the courts in this recent period. My great offence was I was outside of my normal residence without reasonable excuse, and it took an armed detective, backed up by other armed detectives, to charge me with this. How is it not a breach of fundamental human rights when you cannot leave your front door unless somebody thinks that that is reasonable? This is fascism. This is fascism. If we allow it to continue, it will become exactly like the jackboots in America or Mussolini's black shirts in Italy. That is where we are going, if we allow it, if we accept. So we must not accept this. I will say, and we here are the proof of it, that their bribery and their intimidation have not worked. But the fact is, and just to borrow another little word from Pádraig Mac Piaraish, when he described the people at that time in Dublin, he said, they have purchased the one half of us and intimidated the other. But the fools, they won't win, because so long as one of us stands up and proclaims right, then we will be right and we will prevail. Where do we need to go? And how are we going to get there? These are the ultimate questions. We can gather here, and people have gathered here many times and up and down the country and proclaimed our rights. And yes, we should do this, and we should keep doing this. But where are we going to go, and how are we going to win? I think there's two elements, if I might interject. There are two elements required. There are ideas. We must present the right idea to the Irish people, an idea which will create unity. That idea, I believe, must be us standing in our dignity, respectful, with full confidence in our own correct position. Rights are rights, democracy is ours, we are the rightful rulers of our state. That is what our Bunreacht says. So to unite the people in a movement such as this, we must eliminate questions of social class, eliminate questions of religion, of philosophy, ideology, gender. Any of these matters are secondary questions. We people are all equal stakeholders in the future of our country, and that is the one key thing which should unite us. We must come together to ensure that it is the people who decide the policy of our state, not the powerful vested interests, not Big Pharma, not NEFID, not Micheál Martin or Varadkar, not the European Union, the WHO or anybody else. The people. If it is not the people who decide, then it is not democracy. The second element that we require is we require to be organised. People must set up committees in every town and village in Ireland, in every district in the cities, who insist upon these principles as the way to advance. Too often, I have to say, this campaign has demonstrated bias which has been in some respects anti-working class, in some respects promoting religion or promoting political party outlooks and so on. All the people are entitled to all of their ideas, but please can we put them to one side so that the principle, the power to the people is what should be at the front, nothing else. This discussion is ongoing amongst quite a few people, and anybody who wishes to be involved in that discussion, and I appeal to you to get involved. There are some discussion papers going around. Anybody who wants them can have them and can contribute and should contribute. But we must figure out and box clever. I know in Cork, my own base, they've been conducting a media campaign over the last few weeks. They've been conducting a campaign against the upper class restaurants who have been segregating, to shame them. And these things are having their impact. People are seeing this and are losing the fear. I don't know if people can remember the first rally that at least I was involved in Cork on the 6th of March. It followed the escapade with Rocket Man here. We had helicopters and drones and mounted police on horseback and everything. The whole of County Cork was locked down. Every town, the city was locked down. We thought we might get 20 people to turn up, but several thousand people ran the gauntlet and turned up and stood for right, and we have continued to do so. Before I conclude, I have a paper here. I'm going to ask people if they could, at the end, to come forward to myself and maybe somebody else. We have 2 of these. Leave us with names and telephone numbers, mobile numbers, so we can be in contact. We must all build the connections to be organised. We are against a state which has unlimited resource in organising against propaganda machines which are spewing out their hatred against us. So we must be organised. General Tom Barry in Cork during the War of Independence took a column of 35 men and brought down the biggest regiments of the British Army and defeated them. With 100 men, they turned back 1,200 professional British soldiers who literally dropped their guns and ran. Why? Because they were organised, they were disciplined, they knew how to fight, and they had a cause in their heart, which was Ireland. So we love Ireland, we must proclaim that and stand up for our liberty. So our cause, let me say, our cause and our campaign must be one which is peaceful. Like we demand respect for our views, we must equally show respect. As someone said earlier, if there are people here who have taken vaccines, well, fall to more roiv. We welcome you. If people choose to wear a mask, let them wear a mask. It's their choice. We may try to explain the foolishness of it, but they're entitled to it. So let's be respectful. Now I know, and I myself from time to time feel anger. Lots of us are burning with anger. And however can I suggest lashing out in anger means they win. We must direct our anger into positive energy. It may give a very short satisfaction if you come across one of these corrupt politicians and tell them where to go and maybe stick in the boot. It may give very short satisfaction, but it will damage our movement. So we have to behave with responsibility. Be respectful, be peaceful, stand on our dignity. Our cause is just and our cause is right. That is sufficient. And whilst the majority of people appear to have been cajoled and fooled by the government propaganda, I can assure you that the progression of time will show these people that they have been lied to, and they will come out. But we need to have a movement in place which has the maturity, which has the cop on, and which has the honesty and the right politics, so that the movement of the people can have direction and win. And that is what will happen. If our anger takes over, we are lost. Government will laugh all the way home. The political parties in Ireland have played a horrible, bankrupt, treacherous role in our politics. Even the so-called opposition, people whom we thought in the past might have stood up for the working men and women of Ireland, have betrayed them. They have betrayed the working class and left them behind. Shame upon them. So it is to us to build this movement, to turn back this huge attack on our society. Now, part of doing that is the politics. So just by way of a little announcement, to demonstrate as an example of what can be done. People may not know, our electoral systems is officially corrupt. It is, and I'll tell you why. Because citizens who stand for election do not stand on equal terms. I have stood before as an independent candidate, and the conditions for me with my neighbour Micheál Martin have been unequal. Why? Because his party and the other parties every single year get handed out about 16 million euros of our public money, which pays for their campaigning, pays for their posters, their literature, their media advisors. They get offices paid for, they have staff paid for, and I have to compete. They actually sent me to jail once in Cork for objecting because I wouldn't sign their forums. So our electoral system is corrupt. We must end the financing of political parties with public money. So on Tuesday next at 12 o'clock, outside the offices of the Standards and Public Office Commission, there will be a protest against SIPO to stop them, because their role is covering up the corruption that exists in our democratic process. The electoral system should fund the process of elections